Hey, Jasmine. Hi.
Hey, hi.
I'm really excited to chat with you today. Thank you for taking the time. Really excited to hear all about your experiences in tech, how you got here, and all the awesome work that you're doing. So I'll start off by quickly introducing myself, and then we can get right into it. So my name is Sneha. I work at Grubhub as a data scientist in the research and experimentation team. Before this, I was within the financial services industry for about 4.5 years doing data science and to some extent A/B testing and experimentation. And I am here as part of the Women Who Code data science track. And Jasmine is working for Cash App as the head of technical program management. And before that, she was at Facebook, Airbnb, and Texas Instruments, and she loves problem solving. With that, I welcome you, Jasmine, to kind of tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So like Sneha just said, I love solving problems. That's actually why I left my prior job at Airbnb and came over here, because my now boss basically sold me on all of the exciting challenges and interesting problems that we are trying to solve for here at Cash App.
Awesome. That sounds so cool. So I observed that you worked at all these different technology companies, and you actually have a bachelor's degree in computer science, followed by a master's degree, I think, in engineering. Please feel free
Mm.
to correct me if I'm wrong. So I am curious to know what motivated you to pursue those areas within academia, and then how you got into technology. What was your motivation? How did you know this was going to be your career path when you took up a bachelor's degree in computer science?
Right. Well, so I have to give a lot of credit to my mom, and if she's watching this, she's going to be quite pleased because I don't say this to her enough. I was raised in Japan where I had a 6 day like school week. So I went to school Monday through Saturday, and I was accustomed to only having one day of rest. And when we moved back here, as you know, like we have a 2 day weekend. So I was quite bored on Saturdays. And my mom kind of forced me to go into this math and science like after school or like weekend program called Mesa. It was put on by UC Berkeley. And there was one day that someone came in and they brought in like these circuit boards and robots. And I had no clue what any of this stuff was, but I loved it. So ever since then, in the 6th grade, I knew that I wanted to pursue a career where I could do this every single day. Um, but it wasn't until like my second year of college that I finally discovered, oh, this is the type of engineering that I wanted. So I pursued electrical and computer engineering. And I loved it so much that I graduated and went right back to school and got my master's. Um, and I've been working in tech ever since then.
That is such a cool story. And I would do want to point out that I grew up in India and we had a 6 day work week too. So it was quite different when I moved here, and I noticed how the weekend is much longer than what I had seen. So I totally get that part where, you need something extra to do over the weekend. And I think your
Yeah.
mom found the perfect activity to fill up with Saturday, and it was a great marriage since you love problem solving anyway.
Yeah. Thanks, mom.
Yes.
Don't tell her that. She needs to think that I don't appreciate her taking up my Saturday. But no, that was a really good thing.
It was. Okay, so I then want to talk about a little bit more into how you transitioned from a super tech heavy role in Texas Instruments
Mhm.
over to a more internet company type of environment. Maybe you can point us out towards how that transition happened, what motivated you to move from there?
Yeah, so that happened by accident, really. I was doing kind of the same thing every single day. Texas Instruments was a very power electronics heavy type of field. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool, but like it's kind of the same thing. And I think that there might be more out there, maybe. And I was just approached by Facebook at the perfect time, right when I was thinking that maybe I want to try something new. But I was very scared at first. Like, Facebook is a huge name, and I'm thinking, why would Facebook be interested in me? Like, this is probably one of the biggest tech companies ever, and they're talking to me. Like, this is weird. And I was talking about this with one of my friends, and she kept saying the same piece of advice that I repeat to everyone, which is you have to at least try. You're going to hate yourself if you don't try. And so I took a leap of faith, and I was like, you know what? Facebook is big to where if I decide that this first team just isn't a good fit, I'm sure I can go elsewhere. But I had to at least try. And I feel like if you jump, you're going to land somewhere. So make the jump. And I'm really glad that I did. I learned so much at Facebook. People who have worked at Facebook or people who are still working at Facebook will definitely echo this. You will learn a lot. And the work habits that I learned from Facebook are things that I still lean on to this day. And I'm really happy that I listened and I took that leap of faith.
So, Jazmine, I noticed that you mentioned you feeling a little bit scared before joining or at the time of joining Facebook, it being such a big company, one of the biggest in the world, especially in the field of technology companies today, I think. And there is this notion of people feeling like they don't deserve to be where they are or they're not good enough. And a lot of people refer to it as imposter syndrome. So I'm curious to know if you experienced that over the course of the years across your various experiences, and how did you cope with it?
Yeah, imposter syndrome is a big thing. I don't think it ever goes away completely, but there are ways that you can sort of talk to it and minimize it. When I joined Facebook, yeah, I was definitely like, I shouldn't be here. They picked the wrong person. And then I had to sort of pause and think about just the entire interview process. Like, I mean, I thought that I was really smart. I still think that I'm pretty smart, but I don't think that I was smart enough to fool all of those people into picking me when really they shouldn't have. So I think if people are feeling imposter syndrome, think back to your interview process. You're not just talking to one person and then getting hired. You're talking to a panel. And before you're talking to that panel, you're probably having to do like a peer coding exercise, right? It's the same process at pretty much every tech company everywhere. You're not going to be smart enough to fool all of those people. And then when you are actively working and imposter syndrome starts to come up and make you feel, I don't know, uncomfortable, it's important to pause and think about, why is this coming up? Is it because I feel like I didn't take enough notes, or I really didn't do as much background reading as I probably should have? And if that's the case, then just take more notes, do more background research. Just like there are actionable things that you can probably do to make that voice not as loud. And if you're really stuck, right, if imposter syndrome is still there and you're still feeling like, oh no, someone's gonna uncover that I really don't know what I'm doing, oh no, help, reach out to your mentors, right? Like, that's why they're there. And you should hopefully have a mentor-mentee relationship where you can just go and say, I'm feeling this way about this thing. What am I missing? And they should be able to tell you quite bluntly what you're missing. Or in my experience, they've all said, you're not missing anything, just relax, like you're fine. And sometimes it does take like a third voice to like come in and tell you you're fine, for you to like stop listening to this negative self-talk that's telling you that you're not fine. Yeah, so my mentorship thing is not part of like Cash's official mentorship thing, because I just feel like that's too official, and like there's just way too much pressure, because then you have to like submit notes, and like other people are kind of like in your business, and I don't want that. So I meet with my mentors once a month at the most. Some of them I meet maybe once a quarter, and like that varies. Like we can switch it up. If I feel like I need more insight or more context, then I'll start meeting with them more often. But once a month at the absolute most, just to keep things fun and lighthearted, and not put too much pressure, because no one has time to like add a whole bunch of people on like a weekly basis. Like that's way too much, in my opinion.
No, that makes total sense.
But yeah, imposter syndrome, I don't think it goes away. It hasn't for me. I've been working for about what, 15 years, and I still have it even now sometimes, but you can definitely like learn to stop listening to it.
I think that's a really interesting take on imposter syndrome, about how you can kind of accept that maybe it doesn't fully go away, and that's okay. And you have all these different coping mechanisms,
Mhm.
or methods of telling yourself that maybe you do deserve to be there, and all of the great pointers that you mentioned. That's really interesting, and I find that super helpful for myself also, because I have that imposter
Mhm.
syndrome too. Very, very helpful. And I know you touched upon mentorship there, which I want to get to in a second. But before that, I'm really curious to learn more about the exciting opportunity that brought you
Mhm.
to Cash App. And maybe you can share some cool things about your work there.
Yeah, what brought me to Cash App? What stole me away from Airbnb into Cash App? The mission. Number one, like I love their mission around economic empowerment and making money more relatable, right? There are a ton of people that don't actively participate in the financial marketplace because they feel like they can't, right? There's people that believe that they can't buy stock if they don't have a bank, or that in order to buy a fraction of a Bitcoin, they have to somehow have thousands or millions of dollars just sitting there. There's probably people that don't realize that you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin. You can buy a fraction. And just being able to get that information out there, and that opportunity is amazing. And I love being a part of a company who pushes for just that. If you have a cell phone, you can have Bitcoin, you can have stocks, you can do all of these things that people think that you can't. And I love that. The second thing are the people, of course, the transparency, the trust, all of that. During my interview process, I was blown away at how open and transparent my now boss was at the interview phase. Like, I'm not even working here, and you're being very open. That is fantastic. And you're trusting me without having signed like a non-disclosure. You're trusting me with this information. That's unheard of. Like, this is great. And now that I am officially here, that culture is still very, very strong. Like, people are very open and very transparent. Everyone wants to help. We all want to do the right thing. And even though Cash App is growing, we are growing at a rate where we are making sure that company culture is maintained. And I love that. It would be so easy to just, let's hire everyone. But then it gets harder to make sure that the right company culture is propagated through. And instead of just opening like the hiring floodgates, we are being very careful in who we bring on. And I think that's going to make us go even further than we would be able to if we just hired everyone.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think you pointed out how aligning with the mission, or rather believing in the mission of the
Mhm.
company, the team, and really aligning with the culture is so important in being happy about working for a company and working towards a common mission, right? I
Mhm.
think that's just right on the spot. I totally agree with you there, and it's great that you found that kind of trust and such people and openness at Cash App. What I want to kind of go from here is there over the course of years through your experiences, has there ever been a time where you had maybe a difference of opinion or a conflict with a key stakeholder or maybe your manager,
Mhm.
and how did you handle those situations?
Yeah, disagreements happen and they are going to. I mean, I would be lying if I said, no, disagreements, everyone believes the same thing. No, disagreements happen. So when they happen, not if, when they happen, I think it's super important to be very blunt, very facts driven, very transparent, but also open and receptive to how the other person is going to respond. It's important to look at facts. Don't look at how something is being said, look at what's being said, but also understand that we all want the same thing. We are going about it very different ways, but at the end of the day, we want the same goal. And I feel like once you keep that like in the forefront of your mind, it becomes a lot easier to identify where this conflict is coming from. Most times it's over a disagreement. Other times it might be over the fact that someone maybe is under pressure to like assert themselves a certain way, but none of that really matters if the end goal is still met. So I like to be the person that's kind of like, I only care that we get to the right finish place, right? I don't care if we have to go left, right, and make a U-turn, right? I would prefer that we just go straight, but if it's better for you and your teams to go and do these other things, and budget is not affected, our timeline is not really affected, then fine, because we're still getting the same end goal. And that's how I approach every conflict, every disagreement. It's also important to already like accept the fact that nothing is going to be as straightforward as you think it should be. There's always going to be something. So when you're kind of like not looking for it, but when you're like accepting that the things may go left, then when they do, you're not surprised. And I think you're better able to run with it.
Awesome. I think you're sharing some really valuable pointers here. And that's, I think, a really great perspective on conflicts and how to handle those. I'm sure that comes through with a lot of experience and time spent working through and working around these sort of situations. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no
Um,
worries.
I want to go back to the mentorship aspect that you brought
Mhm.
up earlier. Um, Personally, for me, I've always wondered, like, what is the best way of establishing a mentor-mentee relationship? I've often found that it can get awkward, and
Mm.
sometimes, I don't even know what the right approach is. Should I just go up to somebody and say, hey, can you be my mentor? I don't know. So can you share maybe an approach that you used and you found helpful, or you have anything you can prescribe on how people can go about it?
Absolutely. So I actually believe that there is no non-awkward way to ask someone if they want to be your mentor. So just be awkward. And I feel like people are more receptive of the fact that you're comfortable enough to be awkward, right? Um, what I usually do is just I pick the most awkward way that I can, and that has always worked out well for me. Like I will literally go up to someone and say, "Hey, I want to be like you when I grow up." And I feel like people laugh because they're caught off guard and they're like, "Okay, cool, sure." It helps if you do have like maybe one or two specific things that you like about that person that you want to like steal or use or incorporate is probably the better word, into your practice, right? Like there's this guy that I asked a couple of weeks ago. I really liked how he asked very blunt questions in a very non-blunt way that wasn't too abrasive, but was still pretty like, whoa, he asked that question. And I basically just said, I like the way you ask questions. I want to be like you when I grow up. And now we meet like once a month and we just talk about asking questions. And he's actually been at the company. He was one of like the founding engineers, I think. So amazing. I'm like, I want to learn how to ask questions, but I'm also learning about a lot of the historical context. And I'm getting introduced to all these different people that I probably would not have met otherwise. So there's a lot of benefit that comes from allowing yourself to be awkward for a quick second. And I encourage everyone, do it. It's going to be awkward. Do it anyway.
I think that's solid advice. And I am going to steal your pointer about having one or two specific things that you admire or you kind of aspire to have in your own practice with people, and then approaching them with that. I think I really like that approach. So thank you. Like I said, Jazmine, I think you've shared a lot of amazing tips and pointers for us based on your great experience through different companies over the period of time. What I want to do as a last part of this is to get like a pro tip from you for all of us here.
Pro tip. Yeah, have fun. You got to have fun. I mean, in engineering and computer science, like this was meant for people to have fun with. Like you're working in teams, you're working with different disciplines, have fun. I don't think any tech company was founded by people not having fun. I think like Facebook started because they wanted to have fun and connect people. Instagram, Airbnb, we want more fun places for people to live. Cash App, let's give money, fun. If you're not having fun, you might want to switch it up a little bit. And that could mean various different things, like adding some flair to your workspace, or I don't know, like adding a movie reference to the next email that you have to send out, or put like a really funny GIF or something. Take up an extra project because it's fun, but like let fun be the thing that guides you. Like you're going to be doing this for a very long time. I think it's rare for anyone in this industry to only work a 40-hour work week, especially now. And if you're not having fun, like, what are you doing? So just have fun.
Awesome. I love your pro tip. And I think this conversation was super fun. So thank you for taking the time and sharing all these wonderful experiences with us. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no worries. Thank you. This was fun.